Welcome to Technique Tuesday. This time I'm going to demonstrate the ruffling foot, sometimes called Rattler, sometimes called Ruffling. And I have on this image just the pictures of the baby lock one and then the brother one. Really is exactly the same foot. These ones are snap-on feet. Mine, what I do in the demonstration is really old one, and it mounts onto my shank on the machine. But these ones are the really easier to use because there's a snap-on. One tip about these ones is that before you put this foot on, if you use that automatic needle threader on your machine, make sure that you thread your needle first and then put the foot on, because that needle threader could possibly hit this foot whenever it goes down. It is just a little bit more complicated looking foot. As any of the paper lock feet especially, they come with information of how to use the foot. And if you ever lose this one, you can go to the paper lock website, and there where there's information about the foot, if you click the manuals button, you will get this PDF file that you can print it out or save on your computer as a reference. Sometimes, depending on the foot, it may be one page, such a short information. Some of the more complicated ones, like this one, we have 2 pages of information. So this is a great reference then to even print out from the Paperlock website if you don't have this sheet already.
Well, here's another one of my favorite feet. This one is something that's been around for a long time, and even some of the very basic old machines you may have had this attachment. It's called the Rattler. And on this one, I can gather even heavier weight fabrics, and I'm going to use this upholstery fabric to do some gathering, because with the gathering foot it doesn't really work on all these kind of heavier fabrics. It works great doing light to medium weight, and I made another video about that one. That's just an example using the gathering foot. But the ruffling foot, we can force the pleat, because they really are pleats. And we have lots of adjustments on this foot, how we can use this one. The important thing is that we use the straight stitch needle at the center. Very important, center needle position, because this foot has just a tiny little hole in there where the needle can go. So we can't use any other needle positions, otherwise your needle will break in the first stitch. Mine is a very old one, so this one is a low shank, so I need to use an adapter. The newer ones, what come from Baby Lock and Brother, they are snap-on feet. Makes it a lot easier. But this one, in addition, what again is like mine is very old. It doesn't even have this nice plastic holder. Mine is a bit noisier because it has a metal one. But again, I'm just using this because I've had it for years and years. So this one, I need to mount it with the because my machine is a high shank machine. I need to use the adapter to mount it in the machine. But the important part that this fork, that will go over the needle bar, because that is the one that makes the foot to work. So I'm going to go and put this foot in the machine and then show how to gather the fabric with this one. I'm at the machine, and I put my adapter already in the machine. But just before I put the foot in there, let me show you about some of the features of this Ruffle Foot. On the front, we have an adjustment. There's numbers 1, 6, 12 and 0. When I have it at 1, every time the needle goes down, my foot will make a pleat. There's a little metal plate that will push the fabric to make a pleat. If I put it to 6, then when my needle goes up and down, there's gonna be 5 kind of stitches and a little ratchet going, and then the 6th one will make a pleat, and then again 5 stitches, and the 6 make a pleat. And then we have 12, and that case, you guessed it, 11 straight stitches and then a pleat. What if I put it to 0? On that position, no pleat. Well, why would I put this monster kind of a foot in a machine and not gather with it? Well, it really is made as a convenience, because maybe I was doing a long piece and then I realized I ran out of my gathered fabric, my ruffling fabric. And in that case, I would have to attach another piece to it. Well, instead of me taking this foot out, put a straight stitch foot in a machine or the zigzag foot in a machine, sew another piece on it, put this foot back in, I don't have to do all that. all I would do in that case to set this guide onto the 0 position, and then I can sew with the normal straight stitch another piece to that ruffling piece, ruffle piece, and then I can put it back onto where my settings would need to be. So it's just a little convenience. Another adjustment we have in the front, mine is just, again, this is a very old foot, so I have a screw. I may have to even use a screwdriver on it. The Baby Lock and Brother Feet has a really nice little thumb screw that you can just finger adjust. This one adjusts the length of the pleat. So in this case, further I have this one in, deeper pleat I get. So if I use my gathering at every stitch, I really don't want to have too deep of a pleat, because what will happen on that case is there would be a pleat, and on other pleat, and on other pleat, and on other pleat, and I would just start building a tower. So it will really eventually jam. So kind of little tip that if I use it on a setting at the 1, then don't start, at least do a test with a little bit shorter pleat length, and then adjust as needed. Especially heavier the fabric, shorter your little pleat depth needs to be. But then if I go to any of these others, when I have multiple straight stitches before the pleat, then I can go further in with this one. So that was kind of like our most rough adjustment, how much we gather. This is our next adjustment. And the very last one is stitch length. Again, longer or shorter stitch length, I can adjust the amount of gathers. It's like a fine tuning. So I'm gonna start on here with the needle at the center position, and I put my stitch length to 5. And rest of my settings are as normal. And I'm gonna start with fairly short setting on this one, and then I will put this guide to at 1 position. So then I can put the foot in. I need to make sure that this little fork goes over the needle bar. And another little tip, if you just finger tighten your screw for the needle, you may want to just give one little tug with your screwdriver, because this one kind of runs over the needle bar, and if you just barely finger tighten it, it will vibrate loose and your needle fall out. Yes, I've done that one. So now I'm gonna put that bar over the needle screw, and then loosen the screw just enough to get my foot, and make sure that it is straight, that is not in an angle. Again, I'm gonna use my handy screwdriver. This really is a great one to tighten this one. Okay, and here we have it. So I'm gonna do a little, get my piece of fabric, and I will sew the seam on this one. I got my piece of fabric, and when I'm gonna gather this one, I need to get this fabric between the layers. So there's that where that little metal piece that was pushes the fabric in, make the pleat. I'm gonna put this between those layers so that there's a piece in the metal underneath, and then this goes on underneath that metal. You need to kind of go from front to back, because see, I can't pull it this way, because those teeth are now holding it. So if I need to get it, if I need to start further, I need to kind of pull it backwards to get it out. I can't pull it towards me anymore. So I'm gonna just put it in there, get it started, lower the pressure foot. And this is where I always do one little kind of stitch in here by hand to make sure that, yes, I have everything lined up, my needle is going through that hole. So the newer feet, we also have some adjustments on the side that I can shift it a little bit. So do that first stitch, especially if you never used your foot before, so that way you know that your needle is not going to hit any of the metal parts, because there's only a tiny small opening for that one. And then, yes, this foot is a bit noisier. Let's see how it's gonna make nice little gathers. And this is upholstery fabric, so quite a bit heavier than I had used earlier with my gathering foot. So this is when I gathered at every stitch. Well, then if I put it to every 6th, and I'm gonna make my pleats now quite a bit deeper. So I'm gonna just put that screw further in. So now I'm gonna do 5 straight stitches, nothing, a little ratchet going, and then the pleat. I can maybe even do a little bit more. And I always usually do a test on a piece of scrap, just to get sure that I have all my settings good. And if I put it at 12, then that will be then also, then will be 11. Well, now I have quite a bit distance between there. Well, that is where the other adjustment comes in there on my machine, is the stitch length. Because I was using 5mm stitch length. So that kind of gave me this big distance. Let me just reset on the stitch. So I put back to normal 2.5mm stitch length. So now my little pleats are actually twice as now close as they were before. So here we have just to doing gathering, but then when I started to adjust the settings, I made my pleat a little bit deeper, and that was my stitch length at 5mm. When I did just the gathering, especially heavier fabric, I wanted to have that longer stitch length. Otherwise, I will start punching them up. But now that I put my setting to 6, I put my normal stitch length, and I had nice little pleats on this one. How would I attach it at the same time to another piece? Because we could do the same way as I had done earlier, another video that I did with the gathering foot. I can attach it at the same time. On the gathering foot, we put the ruffle piece right side up underneath, and your the flat piece on the top of it, wrong side up. So right sides together, but the longer piece goes under. With this foot, they go the opposite. In this case, the fabric that is going to be my ruffle. And so this time what I need to do is my fabric that I'm going to ruffle, it goes right side down. So on a gathering foot, you put it this way under. This time I put it the opposite, but I'm going to put it onto that guide. Again, kind of just to slide it from front to back. And the piece I'm going to attach it to, that is the right side, I put it all the way under the entire foot, not on that little guide. So I put that one underneath. And there are little extra guides. Let me take this out of the way a bit. There's a little extra, kind of, if I put my needle down, kind of see that there's little extra guides that I could even use my fabric to put onto those ones. Or then I can just kind of use some of the guides in the stitch plate too. Let me get this started again. Get this other end so it doesn't fray so much. Get it again between those teeth. Again, get this one right side up underneath. So now I need to just keep these two fabric edges together. Kind of lining up, but again, kind of, just get this started there. I need to give the edges together, but hide them separately. And the important part is that I don't hold the top fabric too tight. Otherwise, I'm fighting with the foot. The bottom fabric, it just kind of stays underneath. So I'm just guiding with one hand the bottom fabric and the other hand the top one. There we go. We get it started. Again, I kind of want to try to look the edge on this one, because when the foot pulls it, it wants to lift the fabric a bit. So I need to kind of, it's a little balance on holding it not too tight, but still kind of giving us some guidance for it. And here we have it, my straight piece and my gathered piece, all done at one time.